No land hit here. Alt. Targets you. It almost feels like the better option, but I'm going to -6. Now we get to duress them. Take the Abuelo. And then I'm going to alt Lily and split half their mana. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be playing this very, very interesting Reanimator list that got 13th place. It didn't quite crack the top 8. It ended up going 6-2, played by David Boucher. I don't exactly know how to say the last name, so I'm just going to refer to them as David for now. But this is a 5K RCQ that was a standard deck, obviously, at Star City Games, who runs the RCQ scene. Regional qualifiers, if you're unsure what those are, most of those take place in paper. I think you can qualify online somehow. I'm not entirely sure. But it has a very unique spin on what we have done with Reanimator in the past, where we are not playing the card Zombify, the 4-mana card that brings a creature back for pretty free. But the reason for that, in my speculation, I don't actually know, is because of how popular cards like Spell Pierce have become in main boards, where a 4-mana tap out, do that, get it Spell Pierce just means you lose the game. We're now getting to play creatures, which enables a couple of other cards in our deck that are very awesome that I've had a lot of gripes about in the past because I hated milling over my own Zombify. So to break the deck down very quickly, and then we'll get to some of the unique cards that are a little bit new. We have the Faithful. We all know this card. If you're a Reanimator player, you get to play this for 1. For 4, you crack it. Very awesome. On 5 mana, it doesn't tap this creature, so even if it's summoning sick, for 5 mana, we can play this, crack it, bring a creature back. But say we have like this priest in play, or this priest, which is a brand new one to the deck. This is a card that was in standard before, but didn't quite make the cut. But it has a kicker cost on it for 4. With 2 mana in the top corner. Whenever this creature enters, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is very nice. And then we have the other card in here, the Shadowrite Priest, which all these cards so far have been clerics. All the clerics get +1/+1, not super relevant, but if we do have to turn the engines on, sometimes we can become a beatdown deck. If turn 1 was Faithful, turn 2 was Priest, and then turn 3 was this, you do end up having like 5 damage there. So it does add up very quickly for a turn clock if you think about it that way. But it does have 5, sacrifice another cleric, search your library for a black creature card, put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. So we don't even have to put a card in our graveyard. This allows us to play around main board cards like Rest in Peace and things like that, which are very prevalent with, you know, Omniscience and Jeskai, Oculus and whatnot. But other than that, we are pretty solid across the board, where we have 3 duresses, the 4 bitter chimes to obviously throw our Valgavoth away into our graveyard whenever we obviously remove it. But we also have a 1-up bullet in the Shieldred. The Shieldred enters, makes our opponent sacrifice, and then we can flip it and do a lot of this other stuff on the side. But we didn't necessarily do that today, so I'm not going to cover that all too much. And then we have Liliana, which is an absolute powerhouse of a card and comes really relevant. We ult this 3 times today, twice in the same match, which is very interesting. We have Preacher. But the final card I want to talk about, also Harvester is great, is the Overlord, a card that I've been pretty up and down on overall because of its effectiveness to mill over our Zombifies and make us feel really bad about it. But in this deck, because we are primarily just a creature deck outside of these cards right here, everything else is a creature other than lands, obviously. This card actually ends up working a lot more effectively than it did prior because of the fact that, well, if I mill over Faithful, that's my Reanimate spell. If I mill this over, that's my Reanimate spell. If I mill this over, it's my Reanimate spell, right? So we don't lose out when we mill over a Zombify and then we have to look through our next 45 cards for another copy and play it out. But this deck is really resilient, and it actually performed a lot better than I thought it was going to, especially for Best of One, which is quite greedier and faster. And we do get to play against some of those best decks in the meta currently. So that's pretty awesome to showcase how well this deck can actually do. And it does do pretty well. So as I said, we're going to hop right into the games. There is a sideboard. It will be all linked together. But again, this is not my list by any stretch. This was David's, who performed well at the SCG. Maybe not as good as they would like. But they did get top 13 or top 20 or however you want to, top 16, however you want to do it. I believe they cashed. But with that said, let's dive in game. We have the priest that buffs our other priest, and then we can sacrifice it for 5 and go get something out of our deck. Although unlikely, the option still remains. Valgavoth in the hand. It looks like we're against the Orzhov demon control deck, if I had to guess what it is. Maybe temporary flicker lockdown nonsense. So temporary lockdown is cool. This is okay. but I think I just take lockdown here. Just because we're going to establish like a smaller creature and we don't want them to necessarily be able to interact all too well. We could also go for Overlord here, but we can do both of those next turn. We can play both of these next turn as well, right? Yeah, maybe that's the option, then just play both of these. Go ahead and grab back a... Let's grab back a Preacher. If there was a creature to be grabbed there. Thankfully, we actually did that with no lands in that pile. I'm pretty happy that those got milled over, right? This could blow this up, which gives them value, but that's fine with us. We don't really care about that too much right now. Another land off the top. So now, I guess I establish a Preacher now. Is the idea now could be like play this next turn, attack with this, maybe find some value. Also, Preacher might be able to draw us a card, especially based off of this play. There's another Overlord. So now it's like, I can also flicker this to blow up my Overlord. That might entice him to actually do that, which would make me actually more happy about the game plan. But we will attack with this, trigger it twice. We get to draw. And we lose one or whatever. I don't think they'll block. They could block. I highly doubt that they do. But now we have a pretty solid play here. And I'm going to play Liliana. Could have played this, and maybe if we hit the land, we could just crack it and go get a creature. But without that land being guaranteed here, I'd much rather just pop this, get this out of the way. Maybe they'll give us another card, and they do. Okay. Interesting. Then I will play this Faithful. The card like this ready to go, we're probably okay. We also have some pretty good... Yep, sure. Correct. I will do that. There's temporary lockdown. Sure. That's fine with me. So here's the thing that I don't know if our opponent necessarily caught. If they ever flicker this, this can enter. And as all that's resolving... I'm going to be able to sacrifice the Faithful and then bring back a Valgavoth. And it doesn't really cost me anything. But here we go. We play the Shieldred. They're forced to sacrifice a creature. Then I could attack with my Preacher. Now I get both modes because we're at 17 again. Pretty nice. And at this point, I don't even really necessarily need the reanimate situation. There's a Rest in Peace. Sure. Random Rest in Peace. That's okay with me. Still have to beat what's on board here. Let's go attack. Draw another additional card. Down to 9. And then, so now the play can be play the Priest and then just go grab a Valgavoth if we so choose. And I'm going to put this Blast Zone on 2. So we get to blow up the Rest in Peace and everything. Oh, even the Karen? Sure. What are you picking up here? Temp Lockdown? Sure. That's fine with me. Don't necessarily... I guess we don't need to land right now, right? Like we said, like, technically... I mean, I guess it's activated as a sorcery. Maybe I can't. If it wasn't activated as a sorcery, because it's not a tap ability, we'd be able to do what we want. Okay. We'll just set this on 2. Put 1 counter on it. Just in case. You never know what we need to do. The land. I have higher life total and all that. Fits well. Back. Got all that. How many cards got to be in the graveyard? Each opponent sacrifices not to exile, returns to battlefield, transform, activate only a sorcery if an opponent has 8 or more cards. Okay, well, that's not necessarily going to do much for us. Now, we do have to remember Valgavoth is currently gone, so it's kind of whatever here. Then I guess Deadly Cover-Up's the only thing that kind of scares me in a spot like this, but let's just play this anyway. That's full whiff, because that's what I'm here for. That's full whiff. Multiple duresses. You can flicker this, which is fine, I guess. Waiting for all the triggers to happen and temporary lockdown to do its thing. Is what everything here is waiting for. Oh, you're gonna flicker the temporary lockdown. Interesting. Or pick it back up. I will discard this. This. Huh? Thing is, like, the momentum still doesn't get the, like, we still get to sack these in response, so it's okay. Card. Here. Pick that back up. That's fine with me. Sacrifice this guy. Exiled. Recipes all here. Kind of active. Everything at once. Thing is, like, I don't know what you have to beat this. You can momentum break. We just sack our 2-drop. Or we just go get a Valgavoth and it doesn't really matter. But Valgavoth obviously not the best in this situation. So, I don't know if they're aware, but this does have Menace. So it doesn't matter. There's a Valgavoth off the top. 5, 6, 7. We almost have, we're like working on our chance to just cast it. But yeah, we beat a main board rest in peace with our graveyard Reanimator deck. So that's pretty cool. Bitter Triumph's good. Sure. Yes. Update. It's going to be alright-ish. Maybe not the best matchup in the world that we want it for. Considering, you know, on a red. Sure. Huh? Alright, maybe they're fine. Also, all these land draws is actually going to help us out a bit because I'm definitely pitching them. I'm not taking a free 3 here. We're in combat, so I'm not going to let this ping me at all. I'm just going to get rid of this. Maybe there's monster strategies and stuff to come. We'll force them to use them next turn. Could we? Then I guess, right? Like, I should just hold this Lily until I exhaust all my resources using them as value and then play a Lily into a dry board. Sure. I already played a land, so this is all fine with me. Discard what? Harvester, I guess. Realistically, we're not going to be able to play it anytime soon here. Really kind of nuking ourselves, but it is what it is. Overlord. We'll play this. Might help us hit it like a priest or something. Or we can bring out. Oh, exactly what it did. So here's the options. We can either grab this life-linking menace creature that we could kick and bring something back, or we could bring this out, but I don't think those are good. I think I just grabbed the Harvester back. We just look to try to answer their card with the Harvester, maybe save this Bitter Triumph. Depending on the creature, we'll just take damage. Yeah, like Screaming Nemesis here, this can't answer anyway. So now we'll just take 3 life to answer this. There's a Preacher, that's actually really solid here. Get a nice Death Toucher to put in the front. If it's Screaming Nemesis, that'll obviously suck, but it is what it is. But when we attack, we start making life linkers. They're hitting lands now, and they concede. Oh boy, with a draw, sure, we'll try. Omniscience or Control. World may never know. Feels like a pretty bad matchup. If I had to say so, we really rely on Lily. Or it's Omniscience, and it's still a really bad matchup. Interesting situation. I'm going to just play this guy. It could have that bounce effect, but I'm not going to let that stop me. I say I'm going to just keep playing. They temporary lockdown me, they do, and that's just not a whole lot I can do about it. Liliana's in a weird space when it comes to playing this matchup. I'm so far away from that, it doesn't really matter. The temp lockdown, which is to be expected for the most part. Land. Oh, thankfully we hit. Well, I don't really have another option. I feel though, like obviously if they put an Omniscience in their graveyard, then we're screwed. But I feel like if I'm not plussing this Lily, I don't think I ever have a chance here. kind of where I'm at. Which sucks. It just sucks to be in the spot against this deck. Not really here to play it. Yeah, just reanimate it. I don't even think if we have Bitter Triumph it even matters. See it. Kind of took the gamble that they wouldn't have it in their hand. This is where they just played land reanimate it. No. Okay. What? Sure. That does nothing. All right.
You won't be.
What is our deal? Okay. Sure. What? All right. Bet, dude. It's like what? Well, now Bitter Triumph definitely has a way higher chance of success here. You can see they build up their hand. We're gonna get rid of Shieldred. Save our Liliana because we're definitely ulting this next turn. I wish we had one more land so we'd have 2 Bitter Triumphs because that would basically guarantee the fact that we're able to blow up the Omniscience, but fortunately here not going to be able to. There's probably like some world where you're supposed to Lily take the other card away, but I don't believe so in this game, especially with Lily on 6. I think if Lily's on any other loyalty number, then maybe. This is kind of an example where you can't be too afraid of the deck just winning too at times, because it's like, I feel like we're in a much better spot now that we've resolved this Liliana than where we were literally just prior to this moment. I think just before this moment we were in such a tighter spot. Now that Lily's down, ready to ult, I think we're in a much happier spot and like more thankful that we did it. And there comes a moment of truth. So, going to be 2 of their good lands in the lockdown that has their stuff in it. Then 2 of the bad lands with like none of this stuff. So yeah, my turn. No land hit here. Ult targets you.
Ooh,
So we want.
normally I'm the one who chooses who lives and who dies.
This, I guess. You either keep your 2 on tap lands, lose everything else. It's up to you. Like, in theory, it doesn't matter all too much because we're not hitting lands. So I feel like keeping their untapped source. Oh, they go down their untapped. That's huge. That is massive for us.
This is my home.
That's
and I
actually
draw
quite
it.
crazy. They didn't want to give this stuff up. Now we have another Lily back in action. Now a stock up, finding a land and stuff will do it if they do find a land naturally. But not entirely sure we're going to see one. Keep plussing. Triumph's going to go.
You won't be
Without the
outsmarted.
3rd land in play, I'm definitely just going full throttle at this point. Even a land now, I don't even know if I barrel it, but I will get extra draws off this Preacher. I have to wait till I attack before they can dispersal. So, yeah, I'm still going to draw first. Sure. Also, not hitting a land for this long is kind of crazy, I feel. Plus,
Don't.
I mean, there's a Valgavoth in there, right? So we don't need this Overlord. But they also already have, like, the stuff in there, so it also doesn't matter. Maybe I should have played this for a little bit more pressure, if we could. Sure. We have time to plus one more time. I'm not sure. I would have to feel so that we do. Let's attack first. Hit another land off that, which is fine. I would almost feel like we have enough time to do this. If we don't, then shame on me. But
We all have things we'd rather forget.
and because Spell Pierce could technically be a card in hand, I'm not going to play out this. But they have to have exactly land, reanimate, and an action spell. Sure. I'm not countering anything ever. There's also, if they bring it back, I can just minus the Lily. I don't even have to. Or we can do something really cool, but I doubt we ever get to that point. How about? Sure. Now it's just like, I almost just want to keep plussing though. It almost feels like the better option, but I'm gonna minus 6. Say almost pretty lightly. Cavern here. Here. That, I guess. Keep your colored mana, or you keep an awkward cavern and a plains, and then you have no blue mana. Or I get my stuff back. Which is pretty cool. But it seems like Lily's going to resolve regardless, so that's pretty sick. Then we're not scared at any point to bring the Valgavoth back here. What do they have to go for it? Yeah, I've kind of seen this matchup a little bit differently now that we played the Lily, because I was just so afraid to do it because it obviously fuels a game plan. But from resolving that Lily to now, obviously we've done well. Yeah, and they can't really stop that, but here's another one. Get out. I almost want to do this one, actually. I'm doing this one. I know it seems a little bit weird to do that one. Doesn't make a ton of sense. What it does on the fact that we can activate it because they're kind of graveyard stuff here. There's a duress. So now we just hold Blast Zone. Fire this off. Get rid of Blast Zone. Would flip this. There's just no reason. Got away from them. We just attack. Cool. 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 Listen, I'm not agreeing with this at all. I will keep that. I just pitched that away for now. All right, now it's got to be just blue-white control, like unsolvable problem, right? Play rest in peace. I'll just move on immediately. I have a weird, sneaky suspicion, and that's what it's going to be. Arena said you won a game or two. Here's blue-white control. Probably the matchup you can't beat, considering it won the Star City event. It did, actually, which is kind of crazy. Now, I've been tricked before to think the same thing, and then it ended up being Omniscience, and I was very upset about it, but I clearly didn't crash out. Every time, dude. Thankfully, our opponent gave us some information. Now they have to discard. And hopefully it's Hodigen instead of Omniscience, I think. Although I'm not even sold on that. But we'll get a Liliana to stick here, which is pretty awesome. Maybe. Fuck up? I don't know. If it's Omniscience, then sure we lose. I don't know. After last game, I'm literally not doing. I'm not being scared to play Liliana anymore. They have it. They have it. I feel like this is the Hodigen or Oculus deck, so I'm willing to work my hardest to stop it from Hodigen or Oculusing me. Moment of truth. Maybe it could still be. They just don't play Charter Course anymore. Which is why it's interesting. Because if you always have one in hand, they are omniscient. Okay. Well, thankfully I have 2 Bitter Triumphs to fire off here. Just every time, bruh. Every time I think I'm safe. But we know the game plan. Thankfully our one opponent just generically played a temporary lockdown to try to exile Liliana, which obviously didn't work. But there's one in there. It just felt like when I sold the Charter Course, the way the decks have kind of gone now. Also, our life total doesn't matter, so I'm not discarding anything. We wait till they cast their first spell, unless it's obviously another Omniscience, and then obviously we're in trouble, but... Evasion immediately. Pay 3 life. Up this. They have 2 removal spells or counter spells, I will lose the game, and that is perfectly okay. As our opponent didn't have anything last game, our opponent this game probably gonna have it. 3 life. It always feels like when I have 2 removal spells, my opponent has 2 confounding riddles. At least it tends to feel that way, but it is what it is. Tanking this long to counter it would be crazy. Okay, they didn't have it that time, thankfully. This can grab back the Abuelo again, so, I mean, now we just have to have Lily be good. There's a Valgavoth. There. Well, not a whole lot I can do about it, right? Yeah, I mean, their hand just has to suck. Well, I mean, I guess I could have just played this. Oops. Whatever. It's kind of one of those things where it's like it kind of doesn't matter. Like it does, but it doesn't. The chart, they can bring it back, obviously. Then pretty much any spell is gonna be GG. But I guess 1 card will force them to do it. If they're playing a card like Chart of Course, they do actually have the chance to miss. It happened before. But at least they weren't able to go grab like this town ain't big enough or whatever. Pretty awesome for us. And I can't believe I just didn't play the Faithful. I just thought of the Faithful as 5 mana is why. Because of its activated ability down here. So I was like, yeah, it's 5 mana card. It's that or Preacher. I was like, I could have just played both. Which now I'm going to get punished for it, but it's okay. Yeah, so for me, in the spot G, I'm going to go to combat. I'm going to attack you. Yeah. It's a tough one. If this is a bounce spell, I mean, they play this town in the main boards, and sure. We were empty-handed last turn. They did nothing, so.
We all have things
Versal, okay. We need this card to be dead every turn. And by dead, like, we need it to be dispersal, even lockdown's fine. Just a land. Because it doesn't really matter with this card. We escape this game again. I literally will never know how. But now, oh, what a draw here. That's huge. Now we get to duress them, take the Abuelo, and then I'm going to ult Lily and split half their mana. Because I need Lily to stay is why, I think. And this enters tap, so it gives us another turn. So, we're going to be sneaky about it. We're going to put this little thing over here. Because we want that to go in their graveyard. You either keep 2 mana, or any invasion, or you keep 3 mana and your invasion's gone, which then requires them to have more. So it is a little unfortunate that we obviously don't have the Shieldred right now. That I could have easily brought back, but I've also played every card in my hand so far. So it's not even like I might not even have activated it because I don't really want to discard much. Isolated card. The only way out of this that I know of is if they stock up, gather 2 cards, one being Abuelo, and then one being a dud card. Like, this doesn't do it. Because now they just put the last card in their hand, and then we plus it out of their hand. But they need a stock up at some point. To stock up, put 2 cards in hand, hope I only have a plus on one Liliana, and then they get to draw another good card, and then Abuelo me after. Which is why, obviously, Lily's so good. So now we play Valgavoth. Plus before we attack. Now we attack. Who knows? They have Abuelo plus a draw, I guess? Right? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. No, they don't have either. That's a good game. A weird one. I definitely made that mistake, but I don't think that change the outcome, really. Or why I said it like that, but that's fine. Definitely need to find a Triumph. Valgavoth pretty hard to beat in this matchup. Like, our opponent's going to struggle to beat it. Cancel. I don't want to cast that. I think I just want to cycle with my Harvester. Although, Harvester is weird, because it's actually just really good to play in this matchup. A spot like this. But I think preventing some damage is good. And then playing a Preacher, and then forcing them to answer my Preacher. When Witchstalker Frenzy isn't necessarily guaranteed. But thankfully we do have a better Triumph. There's no guarantee either that they'll trigger this next turn. Now realistically they will. But there is a good chance that they play land, cast, stock up, right? So I don't want to kind of overcommit my hand. And be like, oh yeah, I'm going to hold up this Bitter Triumph to discard my Valgavoth. And it's like, don't really have a way to reanimate it anyway. Not really doing much towards that plan right now, regardless. Outside of this, obviously we can kicker this and it dodges Spell Pierce, which is one of the nice things that this deck has going for it. We're not playing Zombify because Spell Pierce is so relevant that it's actually been really nice. Well, now we have a Bitter Triumph target and we need our 2 mana. Well, we have Bitter Triumph target plus a Harvester, which is pretty nice. We're both at 20, so I feel like attacking here makes sense. I leave back a 1/1 blocker, which has a lifelink, which isn't necessarily the best thing of all time. We also need to make sure we're hitting our lands if we can. Then we pass here, because there's always a decent chance that we find ourselves staring down the barrel of some pretty nasty stuff. There's a Slick Shot, sure. Stock up immediately following that Slick Shot, so pretty good. So we have an option here. Does that work the way I want it to? Oh, there's a red land. Okay, well maybe our option gets a little bit more prevalent here. There's a pause too. Block. Yeah, Monstrous Rage we're definitely responding to. Don't think I can just take this damage for free. So let's discard a card. Let's spike this to the ground. Get rid of this. Then I guess Harvester, because worst case scenario here, like I'm just going to play another Preacher and they have to kind of rebuild on the spot. And hopefully this means I can find one more creature here. I'm going to draw a card and not make a creature, so I just want to do this. Or one more land, not creature, which we find immediately. So now we establish another Preacher. We get to play land and then kicker this. A thing I would not think I would be doing very often, to be honest with you. I would not put that on my bucket list of things. Kicking this in 2025. Hey man, would you like to spend 6 mana for a 2/1? No, actually, I would not. Like, but you could. I know what I can do. That's not really on the list of what I want to do. Here's the thing, though, with Valgavoth and all the tokens that our opponent makes. Now, obviously, they need a second Quarry Steelcutter for that to happen. With all the tokens that they can technically make, it is a bit scary because they can obviously just bounce the Valgavoth. It almost makes me want to bring out the Harvester. Now they're passing, so we want this to kind of happen. We want them to overcommit to kill this because we don't want them to have Spell Pierce. Or Spell Pierce doesn't matter, I guess. Thinning the board, I guess. It's not Spell Pierce that I was thinking of. Literally the thing I said before, where we can thin the board, and now the into the Flood Maul is not relevant, I guess is what I meant to refer to there. So we kick. This enters here on the stack. Here's my Valgavoth, Mr. Quarry Steelcutter. I'll attack, and I'll make a 1/1 lifelinker, and I'll go to 16. And now I have 9 life to be gained. There's a stock up. That makes sense to me. That indeed makes sense to me. What do we have for this plane? Playing against the best deck in the meta. Null Priest didn't necessarily feel that slow. And now I have stock up, which I will gladly pay 3 life for. I like looking at my top 5, picking the best 2. Honestly, the thing that has impressed me the most, which is like kind of a weird thing, the thing that's impressed me the most is the capability of being able to get to the correct cards or feel like I'm finding the correct cards in time. This is what we were talking about a second ago. I'm going to put this Valgavoth back in my hand. I'm going to sacrifice everything. Be left with a 3/3. Which, with all my life gain in play, it's kind of like, do I block? Do I not block? That pause clearly tells us they have something, so I'm not blocking. Then we'll just put a Blast Zone on 2. Like, I can gain 4 more life here. Oh, there's a Harvester, too. Interesting. Yeah, I guess I hold the Harvester. And now we're exactly at 13, which is pretty sweet. So, I guess it's just like this. Make 3 more Lifelinkers on the back end, just to block wide. Because if they move the Quarry Steel Cutter off, this does lose Trample. I can play a Lily here as well. And Lily's weirdly enough going to plus on their hand, I think. We only need 1 of these available. We don't need 2. We have 5, 6, 7. So we're short by 2. So obviously just going to let Valgavoth go. Obviously any other reanimate spell that we draw in this game would be great. There's the Spell Pierce we were talking about earlier, which is awesome. Love calling the card that we're getting to play around. Also enjoy these mountains and islands whenever I see them. They burst lightning, they answer Lily pretty easily. I'm just gonna let that go. Not fighting over it.
I'll be back with friends.
I think the plan is just probably put this on 2. Which would get rid of my Null Priest, I guess. Would be kind of a problem, but let's go to combat. Lily, which is pretty epic. You're not life. Go back up. This here. And now we get to play Lily and pop the Blast Zone. So, last card in hand.
Something suspicious is going on.
Guess I can just...
For once, it's not my fault.
I guess I just plus here, right? Doesn't really
You
need to
won't
be that
pass
complicated.
on me.
We just pass. They put any spell in the stack. We just might Harvester. We can also pop the Blast Zone. Sure. Yep. I like casting my spells too. And we get there. Very cool. Taking on the best deck in the meta and coming away with the win. Even they had so much permanence and stuff, they were even able to bounce our Valgavoth, which is pretty cool for them. But yeah, I mean, I'll take that from my Reanimator deck, you know. Alright, so here we are with probably one of the most interesting decks that I think popped up out of the kind of Star City event. I almost said Pro Tour, that's why there was a weird, like, mental lag there. Because in the Reanimator decks, typically, the idea is just to have a Traxa in there. Sometimes we play a Tali in here, where I'm on a black shell, but, you know, we have those. But the idea here is just load up on the cards that are valuable, like a Harvester that's just a good reanimate target with a Quarry Steel Cutter go wide plan and all the otters and things. Even against Pixie, just a Harvester is really, really solid of a card if you're able to bring it back. So I kind of like that as being a 4 of, plus it's 4 additional uncounterable removal on anything with 2 toughness, especially like a Slick Shot. This becomes really important if your opponent doesn't have a Monstrous Rage, which oftentimes they will. But other times they won't, and that'll still work out for us. So, and then we get to play the Overlord in this deck. I've always kind of opted against this card because I always felt like I just watched my best spells go into my graveyard. But with this kind of variation of the deck, we have so many creatures now instead of just more spells that we don't necessarily would hit off this normally. Because again, Zombify is a spell that if we milled it over with Overlord, we would lose that card effectively permanently, right? Like we would then be like, okay, well now we have 3 of these in the next 47 cards, right? So with this kind of build, on turn 2, if my opponent's a bit slower or I happen to be on the play and they didn't really do anything that I can't really interact with all too well, I just get to barrel the Overlord in this type of build. And I do have like small creatures that I can play and just kind of put out there. It almost feels like the Golgari deck did with like the Mosswood Dread Knight and Glissa kind of thing. And going back to that old Preacher strategy, which felt super sick. I don't know. I was just I found myself, the more I played the deck, the happier I was with how it was constructed. And it doesn't necessarily look like it makes the most sense on paper. Like, if you look at this, if I just handed this to you, it didn't, zero explaining why any card was in here, your eyes would immediately be like, what is this? And what is this card that we didn't play the first time it was here? And if Magic is truly power creeped, it's like, well, how would we play this now? Like, how do we power creep our game in a card that we literally couldn't play in a vampire or cleric deck? How are we able to play this now? And it's just because the amount of stalling this deck can do. I don't know if this card's necessarily worth it. And this card also, by the way, is one of the few cards in the deck that's rotating outside of like these, I guess. Kind of makes me sad that Lily is on that rotation chopping block at the end of the year, because Lily's a card that I absolutely have loved playing in Standard. I know it can be frustrating at times, but I think it's one of the more balanced cards like to be printed kind of ever, because it does affect you as well. But if you build towards it, it rewards you for that. Yeah, like some of these cards are going. Unfortunately, it's these ones, which just makes the deck a little bit harder to pull off, because you're not just freely able to get rid of this. But there's obviously always a chance that there's replacements for this, and you can play Zombify too, right? Like, you still have the Bitter Triumphs that you're going to be able to use discarding this. You just, and Overlords and whatnot. So realistically, you're not that lost when it comes to that. And I think outside of Cut Down, most of the sideboard stays around too, right? Yeah, and you can see how bad Omniscient matchup and graveyard decks are that we somehow slammed them today, which is quite funny. I guess Shieldred leaves too, but that's not in the main, so we don't necessarily care that much. But like I said, I hope you all enjoyed this kind of unique deck that David ended up playing, and it's pretty awesome. Place 13th, pretty cool deck. The rest of the meta up outside of two of them, which the way the decks got sorted, I couldn't tell what was main board and sideboard. Like, I have a pretty good guess, but I didn't want to be wrong. I like blended them all together as just like a solid 75 that even Arena didn't know what to do with it. So I just left it. But outside of that, I hope you all enjoyed regardless, and this list was sweet. So with that said, thank you for watching. Bye.